Hey, what's up, all you illustration and animation fans, and welcome back to What's the Difference, the Shaman King edition. As I've been exploring the Shaman King series, namely the manga, the 2001 anime, and the 2021 anime, I found that time and time again, the manga source ends up being the most pure form of this series, as the newer adaptation ends up cutting a lot of the fat, even in terms of what goes on in the manga, despite the fact that it is a more faithful adaptation. Whereas the original anime ends up injecting a lot of character building moments that help to develop each character, each scene, build mood, substance, all of that. And that isn't to say it doesn't sometimes have its downfalls as well, as it prolongs certain moments that just don't really need to be prolonged in a lot of situations, but when it does it to great effect, it really does do it well. And that's the ultimate downfall. It's another situation where it feels that if they were to just combine both into one coherent story, it would be perfect. It would really knock it out of the park. But we last time we saw the adaptations that showed off the battle between Yo and Faust, with honestly I'd say the original anime had a lot of high points, mostly in terms of color, mood, setting, and all of that. The manga, for a lot of its more visceral moments, that bloody, disturbing, you got to see a lot more of the kind of gore, I guess you could say, in terms of, Faust even cutting open his own leg in order to replace a broken bone, just showing you the depths of his own mania. Although the original anime played a lot of things safe because it created this magical element so that Faust could just run his hand into Manta's body magically and all that good stuff. And the newer anime didn't really have any real moments that stood out, unfortunately. Just didn't quite get there for the most part. But the one highlight that the original anime didn't do was a very bittersweet moment between Yo and Amidamaru after Yo had lost to Faust, where Amidamaru told Yo that his frustration at losing in the end was due to the fact that he cared about people. He had people he deeply cared for and he wanted to win for. He had his own desires, his own urgency that he never truly had before. So that not having that in the original anime is definitely some points against it. But all in all, each adaptation kind of has a little bit of a strong suit, with the weakest honestly being the newest adaptation, with a lot of things that it just leaves out. That's too much. Too much is just being left out in those situations, and it shouldn't be done like that. But as we move forward, we head into chapter 6 of the manga, volume 6 of the manga, chapter 47, June Goodbyes, episode 17 of the original anime, Two People's Journey to the Best Place, and episode 8 of the new anime, titled Progress. Let's jump in. All adaptions open up at the hospital to a certain degree. The manga establishes Manta's own father kind of entering the fray and learning from his butler about what exactly has been going on with Yo. So it gives you this precursor of a pending doom, and the fact that Manta is actually of a well-to-do family. You even get this portrait of his family, but Manta not too delighted with the family. It's not portrayed so much that they're bad people. It's more that Manta has been put in this role of responsibility to an entire company, and it's just that it consumes the world of what he has to be involved with. It's just so much of an undertaking because we constantly see him studying. That's really highlighted, honestly, in the manga, I feel the most, because of just how much work Manta really has to do in a lot of situations. Something funny that happens in the OG anime is that he doesn't really have his family come to visit, oddly enough, as far as I remember. He just wakes up in the hospital. And he's presented with Silva, of all people. I don't know why they chose to exclude his family. But Silva actually gives Manta the explanation of exactly what happened to him up to a certain point. And Silva taking some of the blame for that, for because he's the officiant, he should have been the one to help get Manta out of that situation, out of the fray of everything. But you know, whereas things are played a little bit differently, Manta actually hears about what happened to Yo from Silva and he goes directly towards him. Now, in terms of the newer anime and the manga, it's Manta being talked to by his mother and his sister. His sister is seen as a very cheeky little thing, despite the fact that she's 5 years old. His mother, who is actually a fairly cute little lady, is actually very worried about her son, and all that good stuff. Whereas his father, he's not taking any of the crap. Honestly, I like the way his father looks more in the newer anime, because in the manga, he looks more just like Manta with more lines on the face. But, the newer anime, there's something more of a distinguishing look to him. His father is very much portrayed as someone overbearing and kind of domineering, but I feel that the manga goes in it a little bit more deeply. The manga really points out just how much his father is just having none of Yo's bullshit. He feels that it's a delinquent. They're delinquents. He's a charlatan, shamans, and all that good stuff. It's nonsense. But that makes sense because even Manta didn't quite believe in it himself. It's the sheer fact that Manta can see actual spirits that he's not he does that he's able to believe in any of this and actually have the willingness to be still friends with you. And it's easy to overlook the fact that Manta's father, this is coming out of a place of worry for his son. He feels that his son has been drawn into a bad crowd, that he needs to protect his son, that his son isn't thinking rationally, that he's been drawn into an occult or something like that. That he feels that he needs to get his son out of here. He's sending him to Moscow in the manga, whereas in the newer anime, he says he's sending him to America. And this is something that just needs to be done in order to save Manta from a terrible fate. Because he really does feel that Manta is a hope for his business. But it's so easy to overlook the fact that this is coming out of a place of caring. But it's the fact that his father doesn't know all the specifics, the ins and outs of what is actually happening here, that it's easy to look at his father as a cruel person. It's kind of played more for laughs in the manga, whereas in the newer anime, it's kind of played more for the drama, if nothing else. And so Manta, it's just nighttime. His dad feels that he feels that his dad isn't listening to him and all that, but he knows that his dad doesn't see ghosts or anything like that, so he knows his dad isn't, it's not coming from a bad place or anything like that, but it's a very somber moment. And ultimately, Manta only realizes the situation with Yo because Yo is in the hospital and all that. I prefer the way that it is shown in the manga and original anime, where Manta is looking dead on towards the bed. However, more recent hospitals wouldn't really have that setup. He would be in the position that he is in the newer anime, but it's a lot more of a dramatic situation with him looking dead on at Manta and everyone having these kind of sullen looks and all that good stuff. The cold looks that everyone has is in kind of every adaptation. And then he tells Manta that he lost the match and all that good stuff. And then Manta feels that it's because of him. And, he says, yeah, that's right. Had you not run away the way you did, everything probably would have been fine. Manta has a hard time believing it, especially after everything they've been through. And the original anime really drives it home. The OG anime doesn't have Manta kind of have him say that he was going to defy his parents because his parents weren't really involved. And I feel like not having that lessens a few things because Manta was going to go against his parents and all of that because he knew what Yo had been through and all that. To not have that moment where Manta had that thing with his parents, it makes it seem like, where's Manta's parents in all of this? Don't they care that their child is in the hospital after all of this? That he was literally cut open? Or in the original anime's case, that he was just kind of knocked out or something like that. It seems more like he had anemia or something in the original anime, whereas in the manga and the newer anime, it's just like, no, Manta got cut the fuck open. He got vivisected. Like, that's a pretty much more brutal situation. But, to not have his parents there to build up the tension that Manta has this other option. He could just leave Yo behind and never see him again. That's fully on the table for Manta. But the original anime doesn't have that. It's weird because the original anime has really been ramping up a lot of the drama in a lot of places, but it's chosen not to do that in this section. And I really do question why. Why did they choose not to include that? Did they not want to have a situation where a young child is going against the wishes of their parents? Because it's been censoring a lot of things as well, the original anime. And in doing so, it's trying to protect a lot of children. Probably because it was played in a time slot where a lot of children would have seen a lot of things. That's not to say that the newer anime doesn't also have moments that are kind of censored, even though Manta is still cut open in the newer anime, you don't see it as well, not as badly, and they still exclude that moment where Faust cuts open his leg, removes a broken bone, gets a new one, sutures himself all up and all that, not to mention is pierced with a lot of bones and stuff, so there's a lot of stuff that is still left out in all the adaptions. That's the sad thing a lot about adaptions, because of practices in terms of Japanese TV, especially nowadays. Back in the day, you might have gotten away with a lot more things, especially, before the 2000s. But nowadays, lots of stuff you just can't get away with on Japanese TV. I wish Anna was eating the apple in the newer anime as well. I feel like that's a bit of a shame. And Yo is basically just trying to make sure that nothing happens to Manta during all of this. Like, he knows that with his new challenge against Ren, that there's still the possibility that something will happen to Manta. And he just doesn't want anything like that to happen. It was a dangerous situation, and he blames himself, and I like that characterization. I also like this moment in the older anime where he's slowly traveling back home, where, it's a very somber situation and all of that. But Manta has gone back to his daily lives. That same shot of him just heading home after a cram school. Whereas we get a little bit more of Ren and Yo's discussion after Ren managed to take down Faust's, 14-ton calcium giant. I like the continued explanation. Even the manga goes a little bit further than the newer anime, where Ren lets it be known that, hey, in 3 months we will have our fated fight. The Oracle Pager says, I'll fight you again. You know, honestly, Ren has this really kind of humorous moment that's completely cut out. It's actually kind of weird. Like, Ren feels like a dangerous supervillain, if nothing more. But there's still this somber air about everything. Just doesn't want to expose Manta to any more danger. And then the question of what Yo is going to do comes up, but he's decided to go home and train a little bit more. Honestly, the manga portrays just how much of more of a pouting situation is going on with Yo more than the newer anime. And even the older anime. For Yo, in the older in the manga, in the original manga, Yo's face looks a lot more sullen than anything else. And I feel like other adaptations struggle to portray that Yo has a lot more minute expressions than in the other adaptations. The newer anime does a little bit better of a job than that. A better job, does a fairly good job of portraying it in certain instances, but it does tend to have that neutral Yo face. And the older anime just cannot break away from having Yo look too neutral without making him look completely off model. Like, there are certain scenes where he looks intensely angry and he just looks so far off model that he looks like almost a completely different character in a few scenes. So it's unfortunate. It really is. In the older anime, Manta is just going about his daily life, as if nothing had ever happened. Whereas in the newer anime and in the manga, he's getting ready to leave. He's heading off. He's about to go and never come back. Well, not never come back, but his family feels that this is getting him away from a bad situation. And Yo is gone. Just gone. And Manta doesn't even know that he's gone either. It, it's hard to tell what is the better choice here. Is it just that it's better that Manta just questions where Yo might have been, that he feels that Yo is just another few steps away, and that if he just heads to Yo's house, they can talk things over, or that Manta is about to leave and he really just has to defy his family. I'm harping on this a lot, but I feel like it's a good character moment for Manta that the original anime left out, and it boggles my mind why. And then you get into chapter 48 of the manga, and that's Road Trip to Izumo. Also love this color spread, where you can see all the characters who have been introduced up until now in full color. Honestly, it really just goes to show that the mangaka had this long-standing love of how his characters looked. It is very deeply ingrained here. And it's actually a 2-page spread that you'd have to turn on your side. And a lot of mangaka don't do kind of stuff like that, honestly. So, kind of breaks the mold a little bit. And in all versions, he ends up running into Ryu. And they end up finding out in the older anime that they've left completely. And Manta thinks that it's just because Yo doesn't like the town because of Manta and all that good stuff, and he needs the explanation. And whereas in the original, newer anime, he was heading to America to become a sushi chef and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, the fact that they've left out, or at least it seems like they've left out this moment where Yo is talking with his grandpa about what he needs to do next in order to, increase his mana, well, his Foryoku and all that. It's unfortunate that they've decided to kind of eliminate that for the most part, or just put it someplace else. I like that we get a little bit of a moment where immediately get a little bit of a moment where Yo and his grandpa are just talking about what Yo needs to do in order to increase his power. And he gets the explanation that he can increase his power naturally. It's something that you're born with. It's not something you can just grow. You would have to die or enter a little bit of a pseudo death in order to increase your sixth sense and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's someplace that they'd have to um, travel a little bit of a way in order to get to. You know, and then the manga gets to the point where um, Manta ends up meeting up with Bokuto no Ryo, where he was still going to America to become a sushi chef. So, you know, a lot of things are kind of jumbled up and turned around for the most part. But in every version, you have this moment where Ryu and Manta are just talking about, you know, the life that they're trying to live and all that good stuff. The manga even has a moment where, you know, we see the rest of Ryu's gang, you know, that they've all gone on to have these various different jobs, whereas they're just kind of mentioned, but, you know, as portrayed in the background here, they're all seeing Ryu off, and I like that. I like that his gang is seeing him off for the most part. But I do enjoy this heart to heart between Manta and Ryu, and they end up heading off together. Honestly, Ryu's outfit looks the best in the older anime. In fact, I love the fact his bike is this bright purple and all of that. And then you get to the cave in the manga, the cave that Yo has to enter in order to, you know, develop his Foryoku and eventually. And you know, his grandpa, I like the caring nature that we see between Yo and his grandpa. That he's worried about him. He's just like, are you sure you want to do this? It could be intensely dangerous. But Yo has this very serene look. And see, that's why the serene look of Yo needs to be done carefully. You know, do it too much and he comes off as too aloof. Do it too little and it feels like he's completely out of character. The manga really just hits this right way of doing things. But I feel like all the instances don't quite capture the majesty that is Ryu on his bike. It all just kind of looks a little bit off. The manga does it the best. The manga really does do it the best. And they head out. Alright, the older anime has this interesting scene where you actually get to see them arrive in Izumo and they're met with Yo's grandpa's various different spirits. I actually kind of like that moment. You know, see how his grandpa would tease him in various different ways. Yome, he has a really awkward look, and I feel like the manga does a little bit more of a better job of the way he looks. And now you finally get that moment. They talk about, you know, what needs to be done, you know, what happened. Although, in the newer anime, they're already on their way to the cave that Yo has to get to. But I prefer to see a little bit more of the frustration in Yo. I do enjoy the fact that Anna and Amita Maru are there as well, but the reasoning behind why Anna and Amita Maru shouldn't be there, I like it better in all the other versions. All the other versions do. Once you find out why Amita Maru and Anna shouldn't be there with Yo, it really drives home why the other adaptations, rather than the original anime, do this situation a little bit better. I love this song that Ryu sings on this motorcycle heading towards Izumo. It's a funky little situation and a funky little tune. And the fact that they're being followed as well as they make their way towards Izumo, it's filler. Incoming filler. I like the fact that Yo, no matter what, decides to go through with it in every adaptation. But the older anime really highlights that, you know, for Yo, it's just because he wants to make sure that Manta stays protected. The worry that Anna goes through as well. It's a nice little situation. It's cute, if nothing else. Makes it seem very sweet. And you get a little bit more filler of Manta and Ryu being on the road, but it's a trip that honestly shouldn't take them too long. The fact that it ends up taking them like I'd say about half a day. No. I do think it is a little bit more of a long trip, but the original anime just highlights how long it actually is. Well, I don't mind so much that we get more of Manta and Ryu, because that's what the older anime really does. Highlight more of the character interactions. All the possible gripes and feelings that Manta might be going through. The friendships that they've had, the fun that they've shared, all that good stuff. You get this nice little visual moments from Ryu. It's a way of saving on animation. You see all these still shots and panning shots and all that. They can save on talking animation and all that and put it towards moments that you actually need. So you don't even see his mouth here. They're trying to cut back on animation. But in doing so, you also get some nice instances that help to kind of just build on character as well. It's so hard to tell if it's needless or if it actually helps build character, because you don't see it that much in newer anime, because newer anime can afford to animate things a little bit more mouth flaps, more instances of characters moving around. But still imagery, it does something. It builds an atmosphere. I sound like a old anime purist, but when I'm seeing these two things side by side, don't get me wrong, I do have a nostalgic love for the older Shaman King anime, but to be real, it's the manga. It'll always be the manga that is my glowing endorsement for the series, just because the manga had the better impression on me. Once the older anime kind of starts to diverge in terms of plotline, then I kind of start hating on the older anime, to be honest. And I love this moment where Ryu seems to know that they're being followed and all that. And he just walks off into the woods randomly. And you get Millie and Ellie, who are two filler characters. Honestly, once you get to the more comedic elements, they're not too bad, but if you don't enjoy comedic elements, then they're kind of a drag on the story. I actually kind of like their weaponry, too. The fact that hers turns into a crossbow. One's has these long nails. These cool little filler ghost powers. And with all the shaman fight participants, they could have easily actually been in the shaman fight. I honestly wonder if the newer anime will have them make cameo appearances in background shots or something. And you see they really just highlight, oh, okay, that Ryu seems to have a ghost of his own, because he has shaman powers, but you see the precursor to that, what his guardian ghost is. And then he gets saved by Master, Mikihasa. There we go, that's the name. Because in the older anime, Ryu is already trained by Yo's dad, Mikihasa. Nice little bit of a background plot line going on there. Oh, and you get to see that he actually already has the shaman fight Oracle Pager too. So they're setting a lot of things up early on, which again, it's just like, is it a good thing that they're setting up things early, or is it a bad thing? You know, do you lose anything in setting all that up earlier on, or is it something that actually feels a little bit more natural and organic? You know, the older anime also makes this whole event seem a little bit more ceremonial. Like it's this deep, feel the weight of this decision and all that. So each series kind of cuts something out. Whereas in the manga, they have to take a taxi to get to a place where they head onto the boat and head over to the cave. In the older anime, it's just get on the boat, head to the cave. Newer anime, they're already on the boat headed towards the cave. And you get the explanation about how, entering this cave gives you kind of this pseudo feeling of death. Entering could almost drive you to madness. It's an intense feeling to be in enclosed darkness and all that. It could drive you to madness, then basically kill you. And Yome is really trying to drive home. You need to fully consider this. In every version, he has this just feeling of determination that he's going to do this no matter what. Every iteration, it's this trip to Izumo that just helps to build on the plot line. Um, Entering into chapter 49 of the manga, the Happy Place Doctrine. You don't get the moment where they're pissing in the urinal stall and all that. Every other adaptation chose to just have them just eating and talking things out. I'm seeing that even the manga had a little bit more of the still shots and all that during Ryu's talking segment, so it's only the newer anime that has chosen to leave that out. I actually completely forgot about that. The older anime, as actually adapting faithfully the manga. It's the newer anime that has chosen not to adapt certain things. Honestly, a lot of everything here, even the manga, the old anime, the newer anime, this is Ryu's moment altogether. The life on the open road, just heading to this, nearby gas station, this wage stop, this rest stop, and just the discussion that he has with Manta. I think this might be what ended up causing all versions to fall in love with Ryu. Because Ryu is, despite the fact that he's more of a joke character, there's a lot of love given to Ryu in every version. Every version gives Ryu a lot more love than you would think would receive. And you wouldn't know how much of a good character he was going off of how he is initially introduced as an antagonist. There's something pure to Ryu's soul. And the various different adaptations, no matter what it is, really tries its best to highlight that. Ryu is something else. And every version we end up running into Tamao. And every version we end up being introduced to Pochi and Kochi. For some reason, I don't think they introduce the explanation that Tamao gives to Master Yome. I think they kind of gloss over all of that, where she tries to warn Master Yome, and, he kind of brushes off what she's thinking. And with this, we enter into episode 18 of the original anime, just titled simply, Yo! Short, sweet, and to the point. Yo! Opening back up with Tamao and the prediction that she receives, and how Pochi and Kochi are trying to coax her into hunting whoever these beings are down. Tamao has this. They don't emphasize her shyness too much in the older anime. That she's so shy that she tries to communicate with her sketches and all that. Honestly, I didn't realize originally when I originally saw all of this that she was under the tutelage of the Asakura family. She just felt like some random chick originally because she just kind of pops up out of nowhere. And it was the interaction with Yome that was needed to just bring everything together. Ooh, you get to see a little bit of Haruhoro's fight in the original anime. I don't think you get to see that anywhere else. But since it's someone who ends up losing their fight, like, of course, and it's actually Haruhoro's second win and everything. We get to chapter 50, Hell's Belly. The newer anime actually decides to give a little bit of filler too, I think, with Yo being in the cavern and him kind of struggling a little bit. Nice little funny moments with Haruhoro and Parika, where she just wants him to train more. They actually give a little bit of a moment to Caleb as well, which, honestly, all adaptations have just not been doing a lot of. I like that this moment where Haruhoro is thinking of Yo. And to show that they've been traveling for a while, you have Ryu slowly growing more and more of a stubble and all that. He is probably the most hairy 17 to 18-year-old that I've ever seen. But then again, thinking back to when I was that young, it's just the fact of how fine his facial hair grows in. When you're around that age, your facial hair does not grow in well until you're at least in your early to mid-20s. But Ryu, man, he grows in facial hair like he's been growing it all his life. And in all versions, honestly, the version that actually has them arrive at the Asakura family house is the original anime. Whereas in the manga and newer anime, they just kind of arrive off near the countryside and all that. They enter into Izumo, but they don't actually arrive at Yo's house because they have no idea where it actually is. So I like the fact that they just kind of are just like, okay, we've arrived in Izumo, where do we go from here? We have to find Yo's house. Whereas in the OG anime, bam, they've immediately found it. And then they run into Tamao. Ponchi and Conchi, the Ren and Stimpy looking motherfuckers. I like the older anime just has their asses get beat a lot harder than everything else. Because Ponchi and Gochi, they just deserve the ass whooping that they tend to get in a lot of situations. I like the fact that Ryu doesn't immediately kind of get, taken off guard by them. But, ultimately, Ryu in every other version kind of falls in love with Tamao at first sight because she's cute. And again, Ryu is actually underaged. And it's not apparent because of the way he looks, but he is underaged. And I guess they chose to kind of eliminate this because he looks so old and she looks so young. He brings out a full-on bouquet. Oh my god, it's too intense. It's too intense. Whereas in the manga, he just brings out a flower. Every version, his hair gets chopped off again. And then he gets hit right in the balls. Every version, he gets hit in the balls. And whereas in the older anime, he gets wrapped up in, God. It's either Pochi or Kochi. I can't remember who's who anymore. The Tanuki. The Tanuki in the older anime just wraps him around with his tail. In every other version, it is balls. Is balls. Although the manga tries his best to reestablish it that, oh no, it's his belly, not his balls. No, it's his balls. His big hairy balls. Like, I'm sorry, that's what it is. It's the Tanuki lore that their balls are just these things of legend that can be malleable and change into anything. And Tama really wants to protect the Asakura family and all that. Get a little bit of her background, how she was too. But it's not highlighted enough in the OG anime. And the determination in Tama. And then you get her crossbow that forms. I like the fact that she's already able to form an Oversoul too. Oversoul Cupid. She'll shoot you through the heart, and you're to blame. You should have turned back beforehand. I like the determination that Manta originally has to see Yo. And, their clashing feelings. It's just like, because Tamao believes so much that Manta will bring calamity onto Yo, and it brings to the fact that, Manta's feelings that maybe he will be the one to bring calamity to Yo because of what he ended up being involved with, being captured by Faust and all that. It really makes him wonder in the end. And Anna and Midamaru show up. And in the manga and newer anime, you find out that the reason why we hadn't seen Amidamaru and Anna with Yo during all of Yo's meeting with Master Yome is the fact that they were actually trailing Manta the entire time to make sure what happened with Faust didn't happen again. They were actually following behind, protecting Manta to make sure there was never an attack, any kind of assault on Manta's life or anything like that. Although the older anime kind of treats it like that's what Ryu was kind of there for. Because Ryu was trained by Master... I'm blanking on Yo's dad's name again. But he was trained by Yo's dad. He got all the shaman training. He has his own guardian ghost and all that good stuff. So he was the one protecting Manta because of what we saw with Millie and what's her name? The two filler chicks. So it brings forward the question, which do you prefer? That Anna and Amidamaru were trailing Manta to make sure that he remained safe, or that Ryu was kind of the one making sure that Manta remained safe? Although it's hard to say whether or not he was actually trying to keep Manta safe, or that was just a legit shaman tournament fight. And then she beats the crap out of Ponchi and Conchi because they had been lying the entire time. Yeah, the revelation that the tall one and short one, as it were actually Yo's friends. And ultimately, Ponchi and Kochi are punished accordingly for their transgressions, otherwise known as being little shits. And I also love the fact that, and I feel like something that should have been in the older anime, is the fact that Anna makes sure to let it be known to Tamao that she is Yo's wife, and Tamao is Yo's friend. That's how it is. So, it is just like, Yo will have no mistresses. Honestly, the manga makes it clear as well that Anna has no idea where Yo is, because she wasn't there for any of it. But the newer anime and the older anime, she knows exactly where the cave is and all of that, despite everything. And it's a unfortunate situation because she uses Pochi and Kochi to divine where they're at, so that gives them a little bit more utility, if nothing else. I also love the discussion that what Manta's entering into. They mostly have this discussion in the manga, a little bit in the anime, and almost non-existently in the newer anime. It's very brief conversation, just what Yo is going through. And Anna tries to kind of dissuade Manta from getting involved in all of this. Whereas In other versions, Ryu actually gets woken up and taken along. Not so much in the older anime. He's kind of played for the butt of the joke in a lot of situations. The explanation about the Asakura household isn't told until later in every other version, but here they immediately talk about the fact that Yo has a big house, and that mostly comes from the fact that, you know, they used to be a very prominent family. Not so much nowadays, though. I do like that Master Yome is meeting up with Manta here. And they build up the drama. Yo is dead. No, he's just in the cave. He's making his way through. Shut the fuck up. They slowly head to the cave. But I like the fact that Ryu is getting the same training as well. So it's helping to make it so that Ryu is also getting a little bit of the training on the sly in the background. That shows why his progression, as we see later down the line, is actually so advanced. Because he was training in the background, whereas in every other adaptation, they just kind of fudge how strong Ryu gets after a certain amount of time. They build up a lot of the drama of Yo being in the cave. Whereas in the manga and newer anime, Manta just believes in Yo. He knows that Yo will make it through. Newer anime and in the older anime, it's more like he's just worried. He wants to see Yo. That's all That's on his mind. That's it. That's everything. I do like seeing a little bit of Ryu in the cave, but I don't remember if this is how his training went. Did he actually experience all of this? Or is this just exclusively in the older anime? The crisis that Ryu goes through in terms of this cave is so intense. I feel so bad for Ryu. Oh, okay, so in the older anime, it doesn't happen immediately. Like, whereas every other version, the moment they get to Izumo, deal with the whole Tamao, Anna, whatever, Pochikochi, whatever, they immediately head to the cave and Yo is making his way out. But no, not here. In the older anime, he's still in the cave. It's still going to take some time. But we still need the explanation of Tamao's involvement with the Asakura family, because we weren't given it where we were supposed to back then. But I guess it builds a little bit of character for it to just be in a more calm moment where Tamao and Manta have this discussion. And a little bit more of Tamao being basically a Hinata-like character. Would he not have been introduced by this point? Because considering when the Naruto anime had come out, I think they would have been introduced around the same time. These nice little moments that show just how worried Anna is for Yo. And now the revelation that Yo will be coming out of the cave today. And for some reason Ryu still isn't in attendance for any of this. However, this is interrupted because filler with Yo, with the duo, the tall one and short one, actually being actual characters, contestants in the shaman fight. Here to take out the opponent beforehand. They're just there for comedic relief. They're basically team rocketing it. Honestly, these characters are portrayed as at least fairly capable, especially considering they're in the shaman fight. But it's just like, if they were actually capable, if Yo's training actually meant anything, what he's going through, shouldn't even matter. Him being attacked, and then the other series is just like slowly progressing out. Boom, he's there. Yo has exited. And he seems very laid back about the whole situation, like he hadn't even gone through anything, really terrible or crucial. You get this action scene in the OG anime. Newer anime they're already at the house. Manga has gone over to chapter 52 called Progress, same name as the newer anime's episode. They eat the food, they're having a good time. It's actually kind of nicer. It's just like, come on, it's training. You don't need action 24/7, which is weird to be telling the older anime you need to chill the fuck out a little bit. And you get a little bit of the explanation here about, Yo's household, how back in the olden days used to have a minimum of 171 people, including its disciples, but times have changed. At most you have, Grandma and Grandpa, Yome and Keiko. And even Keiko has actually left, and actually Yome has left as well. And Manta's just like, wait, your family didn't even come by, despite what you were going through? And then the whole explanation that Tamao really wanted to be involved with the Asakura bloodline after everything she worked towards, but ultimately Anna was chosen, in a manner of speaking, a little too late, despite the fact that Tamao was actually groomed to be Yo's fiance. And it's unfortunate in every other adaptation you don't get to see Ryu's sleeping pose, which is him just pointing towards the air like he's having disco fever. And then this heart-to-heart between Yo and Manta. I'll just finish up the older anime at this point. Yeah, the older anime also shows off the new form of Yo's oversoul a lot earlier. That's what I was trying to get up to. They wanted to immediately get into the situation with the oversoul. But in the manga and newer anime, Yome eventually makes his way back. Harasame, Anna has Harasame. And he wanted to meet the guardian ghosts and all that good stuff. He hadn't beforehand because older anime, Anna and Miyamaru were already there. Newer anime and manga, he was away for a little bit after the whole situation with Yo going into the cave. So I guess the older anime just wanted to cut out the middleman in a certain way. Who knows. And then he brings out his Shinigami. Oh, Shikigami, not Shinigami. And now it's time for Yo to show off the first of his training. I guess the older anime felt like it would be better to have Yo go up against actual opponents rather than just very mundane opponents, I guess you could say. And then bam! Brings out his Oversoul. I feel that the older anime doesn't make it look as grand as the manga or the newer anime. Newer anime, it looks crisp. Manga, it looks beefy. Older anime, it looks kind of like, wimpy. Entering into chapter 53 of the manga, Two Tough Ghosts. Honestly, the manga doesn't go into the fact that Amidamaru can already talk in this form too. And then they get blasted off like Team Rocket in the freaking old anime. And then, we have the moment where he meets up with his grandpa Yome. Anna being very tsundere. It's a nice little moment between the two of them. I swear to God, really diving into the comedy. It's a sweet little moment, building up the drama. Manta wants to be friends with Yo forever, and ever and ever. It's sweet. It's like, I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean what I said. I love you too, bro. I'm also hungry as shit. It's cute. It's cute in the older anime. And then Tamao and all that, because new character, we gotta give her at least a little bit of spotlight. They decide to end things off on this sweet note and all that in the older anime. The anime then transfers into episode 19. Well, the older anime transfers into episode 19 titled Two Big Souls, which is the name of the manga as it goes. As it goes into two tough ghosts instead of two big souls. As the newer anime comes to the conclusion of its episode, which, has Tao Ren in this weird China Works building. He's, after working out, he's in the shower. We see the tattoo on his back, really cool and gaudy. Ultimately he asked his sister for his towel and milk, only be told, yeah, she already went home to China. Nice little bit of comedy. I like the fact that we're getting more of Calum in the older anime, but this moment with Ren feels very vital. A little bit more about how he has no real love lost between him and his family, and the importance of a Tao Shaman King restoring glory to the family and all that good stuff. And Basan saying that he needs his mighty steed, because with that steed he was invincible back in the day, lopping off dudes' heads left and right. The explanation that if he had his horse he'd be very powerful, and the revelation why Ren has that horse, because it is a conduit for Basan's horse's spirit as well. It's nice little moments and all that. Tao Ren saying he'll complete the cycle of hatred and all that, in his declaration that he will be Shaman King. Oddly enough, the older anime completely cuts out the look of Tao Ren's oversoul. You don't get to see it for some reason. It's interesting that they cut that out. I guess they're saving it for later down the line. But then the manga gets into looking over his new and improved oversoul, the revelation that Amidamaru can now talk in oversoul mode and all of that. Master Yomei gives a little bit more of an explanation about what Yo can do and all that, and how he needs to proceed on with the shaman fight. And Manta even giving an explanation that despite everything that Yo will have to go through, he seems very calm and collected. And then they left Izumo the next day for to finally face off against Tao Ren, thus ending Volume 7. Well, Volume 6. You get in the older anime a little bit of Tao Ren. The same explanation. Instead of having him after the shower, now you get the declaration about how he doesn't want to be Shaman King for the Tao family. He wants to just do it for himself. And his little bit of an evil laugh. Again, not showing off his oversoul. And that's kind of the end of things. Everything else just goes on into the next episode and the fight between Yo and Tao Ren. But all in all, I will say that there were a lot of places where the older anime decided to take liberties with this whole trip to Izumo, specifically with Lily and Millie, I think it was, because their presence, while not bad, a lot of the comedic slapstick that you would normally get from Pochi and Kochi was kind of given to them to a certain degree. That isn't to say that you didn't get any of it, but okay stuff. But I will say that the newer anime once again just really cuts back on a lot of content, and I really do have to wonder if they'll go the distance in the end and give a little bit more to these characters as it goes on. You know, it still continues to kind of lack in a lot of places in terms of characters and plot. But all in all, it's serviceable. It does its job well enough, and I do like a lot of the moments in the newer anime. I just feel like I wish they would take more of their own time, do a little bit more to show that they have their own vision for this series beyond just bare bones, like barer bones than even the manga. I really do have to wonder. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What is your favorite adaptation so far? How did you feel about the trip to Izumo? Who handled it the best? I'm interested from hearing from you, and I hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.